All right, welcome back to the nimrodjaune podcast. I'm your host, Jack Adewale, and welcome back. Shout out to all my Apple Podcasts, this is Spotify listeners, YouTube watchers. Shout out to all y'all. Shout out to all the most recent support and recent videos. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Let's jump right into it. I guess there's a little slight misunderstanding I'm having with this phrase. I don't dream of labor. And it wasn't brought to my attention until a couple months ago that this was an actual serious thing. Because how I was branded and conditioned growing up was you grow up, you go through school, you go through more schooling to be able to secure a high paying job, and then you ride out from there. That's how I was taught in my mind. And I always try to find the job that I somewhat could enjoy, but was still pushed on me by my parents. So it was really either doctor, lawyer, engineer, or whatever. I just chose engineer, right? So I always bounced around different engineering fields. I was civil at one point. I'm architecture now. I'm probably gonna go to school to be an architect, right? And it wasn't brought to my attention a couple months ago that there's people who don't believe in this idea and actually deviate from this to say, I've never in my life dreamed of labor. When that person actually was younger, who do you want to be? They didn't have a question. That was a mind blowing to me because from my personal experience, I've never, ever, ever in life heard somebody say, when that question was asked, I don't really know. Maybe one or two people, but I can't even remember correctly what the answer they gave. It was always this cop, firefighter, politician. I'll go when Obama was a president. So I heard you could be the president. So you can imagine my brain was like, I can do anything in the world, right? God would have seen that wasn't really the case, but that's whatever. You grow up and you hear, I don't dream of labor. I never heard that as a kid. So to hear it now, like after all these years and years and years of conditioning, it's shocking to hear at the slightest. And then I try to delve into it a little bit. And I realize it has some racial undertones into it because of slavery and because of these things and because of the system that's set up to where, yeah, you working is because we set things behind a paywall. So you're working to get food, clothes, water, shelter. You're working to be able to pay for all these things that should be provided. That should be a basic necessity for everybody that people shouldn't have to pay for. But because we put it behind a paywall, you now have to go work for us to get some money that we're gonna make more off you to be able to afford all these things. Right. And so I understood it. I understood that premise of not wanting to do that. But the trouble I had and trying to understand it was it would always be followed with something else. Meaning, I don't dream of labor, but I would want to be like a film director, or I want to be a no, not a pathologist, that's science. I would want to be a poet, a painter, a musical artist, a musician. These certain creative uh occupations. And I guess whether we don't see it or not, these are jobs. Being a musician, being a painter, being a poet, these are jobs. It may not feel like a job because you're being creative and it's something that you are internally linked with, but it is still a job, right? And I guess the problem comes in with our understanding of what a job is. A job is always associated or linked with, I don't want to do this, but I have to do this. So a job might be waking up early in the morning to go do construction. Nobody really wants to do that. Be honest, no one really wants to do that. You settle for it because it pays well, but the hours are crazy. Or waking up to go work at an oil refinery, breathing in all those fumes. They pay these jobs well because one, it's very dangerous to do, and two, most people would not have any incentive to go work in an oil refinery or go work construction outside of pay. So you have to entice somebody. And since you already put things behind a paywall, these basic necessities, food, water, and shelter behind a paywall, you giving me a job where I might not want to do it, but it pays really well. I'm gonna go do it. That's why they have to incentivize these things. And that's why doing stuff that you're most passionate about, going to college for a communication degree, for a film art, for going to film school. These aren't necessarily high paying degrees that you can get, or becoming a painter, or these things. These aren't really necessarily high paying jobs. Only really the 1% really make money, but it's still fun to you. You're more inclined to do these things as compared to going to work in the fields, going to be a farmer. These aren't really high paying jobs. Or Well, not necessarily, but going to work in construction. These aren't really high paying jobs. And with this association being to a job being linked to something that we don't want to do, I believe it was possible to equate your passion with the job. I believe most people wouldn't work these jobs. I believe most people wouldn't work fast food, construction, if they were actually able to go do the thing that they want to do, right? And no racial undertone. Most people that work in construction are Hispanic. And with the time I've been alive and the Hispanic people I've been around, a lot of Hispanics enjoy sports, soccer, mainly soccer slash football. If all of these Hispanics, no racial undertone with this, were able to go play soccer, were able to go and live out the dream, the women would go and want to go be nurses, but have to settle for this. I don't think a lot of the stuff that people complain about, like, oh, they're stealing the jobs, they wouldn't be in this environment. They wouldn't be here. A lot of them wouldn't even be in the States, to really be honest. They'll probably go be playing for their national team, but they can't. They realized when they were younger, yeah, we don't really have the money for that. So, yeah, I really love this sport, but family can't afford it. I can't really stay in school long because, yeah, it's good to be in school and it's good to have an education, but my family needs money. So you can preach education all you want, but when both mom and dad can't afford enough and you have 10 people living in your house, you're gonna go to work. That education and all that stuff is free. It's very fun. It's very understanding. And you push for it when people who have opportunity. If you don't have an opportunity, your family literally cannot sustain itself with the mom and dad both working, and you have to go work to go put some food on the table. You really can't do anything. An example of this, I wasn't directly linked with it, but I knew a person that knew them. There was a kid my age who had already dropped out of school. He was working in construction. He was 17 years old. He was making money. Construction pays well. But he was already at 17 working in construction. My question is, what compelled somebody to go and work in construction? Because for you, somebody my age in this country to drop out of school to go do construction, that would either have to mean one, they already knew what they were going to do, so there's no point in being in school, or two, their family needs money. And because they need this money, they got to go get it somehow. And the mom and dad working ain't enough. So the son has to go chip in now. That's what a job is. A job is something you do not want to do or you have to do to go make ends meet. A job isn't necessarily associated with doing things that you're creatively passionate about. Like this. This isn't a job at all. This is just a hobby. This is a hobby I do for fun and I get views and stuff like that. And if I got paid, cool. But will never ever be a work. This will never ever be a job to me. Even though it is work and I still have to do things to make sure I get the results I want. It's still not a job. It will never ever be a job, regardless if it pays me or not. This is a hobby, right? And when I got that part of trying to understand what a job is, I understand where people are coming from. I don't dream of doing something I don't want to do either. But as I was saying, but going off that understanding, once I gained that understanding of it, I never dreamed of labor either. Every dream I had concerning my career was always based in me doing exactly what I wanted to. So whether it was real estate, whether it was engineering, whether it was filmography for a little bit, every single time it was based on me doing exactly what I wanted to do and where I was doing it, wherever stage I was at in life. It was never me doing something I don't want to do. So it never was me doing coding. I never saw myself at a desk doing coding ever in life. Making however much I was making, I never saw myself doing it. So yeah, technically, I never dreamed of labor. Everything I dreamed of was always me doing exactly what I wanted to do, regardless if it was or was not labor. I never saw myself doing it. I never saw it as labor. I always saw it as not fun, but work. I think work and a job are two separate things, even though they may seem synonymous. No, work is just you doing and that process of you doing whatever for a result. A job is you doing exactly what you don't want to do for money. I never saw a job. It was me doing work. And so I guess I always saw a job as work, as y'all, I'm about to go do what I like doing. Even though I get paid to do it, it's still a good career and it's still challenging, but I like doing it and I get paid for it. I never saw it as, you know what? I don't really like doing this, but it pays the bills, you know. I think the schooling part of it also makes people up because at a very young age, you can identify what subjects you're good at. And you can identify whether you see yourself doing this long term. Like I see no problem doing college. College doesn't seem that much different from what I'm doing right now. It's going to be a step up, but it's not going to be such a drastic step to where I'm not prepared for it. I personally don't feel like school was ever that difficult for me. But a child growing up understanding that maybe schooling is not for me probably never dreams of going to college, which would then lead to them doing something they could be passionate about academically. So they're left to go explore other options outside of academia. So that could be sports, that could be the arts, whether it's acting, music, painting. Uh, they go explore other things, whether it's like they go to explore other things that's outside of the realm of academia, and that could also lead to you know illegal activities, whether it's drug dealing or doing whatever they need to do to feel like they're doing exactly what they need to do. And I think a problem with this deals with a lot of things, capitalism and all the other things, but schooling is a main portion of it. Because I've seen it firsthand on people who are intelligent, they're just not good at school. Like I was watching a brief video about Nipsey Hussle. He doesn't sound stupid. He's never well, from the brief moment I heard of it, he never sounded dumb. He sounded like he knew exactly what he wanted to do, how he needed to get there, and what he wanted to do to get there. School is not a part of it. So there was no reason for him to be in there. I've seen people like that. And I've also seen people where, you know, school might not be for them, but it's for different reasons. As in, they choose not to be there. They just choose not to go do this and they go down a different path where they don't really have to. Like, I know where you live at, I know the area you live at. Why are you doing these things and you grew up and you're in this area? It just doesn't really make any sense to me. But it's not necessarily their fault. It's the things surrounding them or the things around them that even influence them to go do that. Because, yeah, you may not live in the hood, but if you're 5 minutes down from one, you're in such close proximity to it that I can understand you getting involved there. Do I still think it's stupid? Yes. I still think it's stupid. I still think it's a personal choice. But that doesn't take away from the fact that you're adjacent to it. So you're probably more inclined or more likely to be involved in stupid activities like that. Like I understand it. I'm not someone that doesn't understand the thing in this case. But it becomes a voluntary choice. With schooling that will lead up to doing what you have to do. It's a voluntary choice to whether you want to use it or not. And I understand the school system is not perfect and it needs some renovation to it to make it better. And we can harp on and on and on about what's the negatives about the school districts and school curriculums and all of that. But it's a choice. It's a personal choice on whether you take it in or not, whether you use it to your advantage or not. Because 100% it's not good, but you had those 12 for years. Like those first couple years are free. Whether college should be free is a debate, or where it should be cheaper is also a debate. But those first 12 years should be free, and where you are able to explore and understand the possibilities of what you're allowed to do, of what you're open to do, knowing you're not just limited to this one thing because you grew up poor, and that you can actually achieve much more in life because you have the drive that some people don't. Some people don't really know, don't have that drive to it. Yeah, I come from a good background. Me and mom does good, dad does good. You come from a background where you might not even know your dad. And so, yeah, you should be pushed to go and understand and find what you like, not pushed to go and do some other things. All in all, what I'm trying to get at is people saying, I don't dream of labor. It comes from them not liking a job. And a job is basically doing something you don't want to do so you can get paid to do it. Most people don't want to do construction. Most people don't want to work in an oil refinery. These hard, menial jobs. Most people don't want to do these things. But they have to do it because it pays well. And if I promise you, if most people were able to do exactly what they were passionate about and get paid to do it, a lot of these people working in these jobs would not do it. And I never saw, in my personal example, I never saw engineering as a job because it was something I was always passionate about. So nobody has to go tell me to go do engineering work. Nobody ever has to tell me to do these things. I just know to go do them, right? And schooling also plays a huge part in this because if you understand at a young age schooling is not for you, that sort of limits your options on what you can do. Because if you can tolerate the schooling, the amount of things that you can do academically is broad. There's nothing that you really cannot do academically. But what you understand that maybe academia isn't for you, you're more reliant on the sports, the arts, or maybe even illegal activities to go make sure you can make ends meet. So for sports, you might be a football or basketball phenom, or you might be really good as a musician, painter, artist, these things. Or you might have to go dibble and dabble and slang a little bit to make ends meet. It's all part of the process. It's all part of what we have going on, how we make our lives and we live our lives. You know what I'm trying to say? That's really what I'm getting at. But yeah, I guess I hope I was able to get my thoughts out properly. But this is the end of the Nimrodjaune podcast, and I'll see y'all next week. Peace.